Hey, how you doing, everyone? Just wanted to welcome you. Hopefully, this will work a little bit better than the last one, which wasn't working quite as well. So today we're going to talk a little bit about the branding that we did for Johnny Cools, which is a heating and air conditioning company in Mesa, Arizona. And so, to kind of walk you through that process of what it takes to get a brand from KickCharge and how we go about that, we start that process by first talking to the client, learning more about their business, learning more about their competitive landscape, who they compete against, what those brands look like. And of course, we want to look at what their existing brand looks like. So I want to kind of walk you through a little bit of that process and talk you through how we get to kind of the finish line. So, kind of just starting with that, you guys can see the finish logo here, and obviously what we wound up doing to get to the finish line. But before we got there, certainly there are other things that we go through to get to that end logo. So let me start by showing you a little bit about kind of what their old branding looked like and kind of how we got inspiration for the new logo. So looking at their old logo, you can see what they had going on here. And this really is not a bad logo or even a bad truck wrap design. It's okay. There's a lot of white. It's not quite as memorable as what they were looking for. And that was something that they really wanted our help with. So they asked us to kind of perhaps see if we could leverage their existing color scheme here and then see if we could bring that color scheme into a more vibrant and a more visually disruptive image. So we looked at obviously what they had currently. We also, of course, looked at what their competitive landscape looked like. So some brands in their market, Gettle is actually a brand that we designed many years ago. Parker and Sons, Penguin and Air. So these were kind of identified to us as clients that they, not clients, companies that they do compete against. So we wanted to be cognizant of the approaches here. So stylistically, how do they look? What are their characteristics? What are the color schemes that these particular companies are using? And then make sure we're thinking about something that would be more unique, more disruptive, and different in their particular market. So, going back to here, I just want to kind of walk you through a little bit of the process of where we started and kind of how we kind of got to the finish line. So, looking here, you guys can see kind of a really, really rough sketch, right? And this is just kind of the beginning. The beginnings of how this brand came to life. And we're kind of working on the idea of kind of this 50s theme, Johnny Cools. It kind of sounds like something that might be out of the 50s, maybe kind of a greaser type of look. We thought the sunglasses, obviously, to go along with the idea of being cool, because he's Johnny Cool. So this is, again, you could see like really how rough this particular idea is. And then the next step that our illustrator, Jesse, worked on this particular brand was to kind of tighten that up and to just start fleshing that out a little bit further. And you could even just see some of the things that we're thinking about as far as even just a lockup. So, for example, here, like the way in which this wrench was going to play out. When we looked at that, we worried that maybe that would create some awkward spacing with the lockup of the logo itself. So then we worked on changing that a little bit. Another thing that we did too, and this is actually, going here is getting a little bit more refined. And you could see some subtle changes here, like even just the shape of the jaw was altered compared to the way it was originally. And stylistically, a couple of other little tweaks were done here to make this mascot function a little bit better. And this is kind of a collaboration between Jesse and Jeff, who's another one of our illustrators. And, between the two of them, I think they pair up really well to sort of tighten things up and get it to a little bit more of a finished piece. So then we get to this stage, right? And you guys can see kind of what that lockup was looking like. And you could kind of see also, what we were worried about with that wrench, right? So if that wrench was going more in this direction, then you create this awkward spacing over here. So we wanted to fix that up. And even here, you can see kind of what we were thinking about as far as this panel shape is concerned. So we said, okay, this panel, and then having this kind of cool script in here was something that we thought would be, a cool way to execute this. But something about this composition I just felt like wasn't quite as true to the period as we wanted. And so we worked a little bit on that as well and kind of just tighten up this script. And we actually had Jeff do a hand-drawn script from scratch and build that out. And then we also just felt like that down here, that this copy was just kind of floating out there. And I didn't really love the way that that was looking. So I wanted to see if there's a way that we can better integrate that, right? And then we started thinking about colors as well, too. So this is a brand that we created a while back. And this color scheme at least had one of the primary colors that was previously used for Johnny Cools. And we thought that this would add a little bit of vibrance and some pop if we could introduce a little bit more red into that palette and do something kind of similar to this color palette. And then we kind of arrived at here. And this is more of where we got to the finished artwork. So you can see that the script here that was done for Johnny Cools was hand drawn. It's not a font or anything. We really want to try to capture that vibe of hand lettering from that particular period. And then we did get everything to function very well in a singular panel. So instead of having this heating and air just floating down there, we were able to integrate it directly into the panel. And this gives a little bit of more latitude with how the actual brand is used, because you can also just simply use the mascot by himself, or you could use the panel by itself. And they don't always have to live together. So that aspect, I think, works really well. And I just want to make sure, too, if any of you guys have any questions, certainly feel free. I think we've got the system figured out where I can actually see your questions and I could respond to them. So if anybody has any questions about the process, just, type them in and I could definitely help answer them. So you can see how the colors work here, too. And then, what the client actually started doing was starting to integrate it then into their social channels. And the other thing that we did too is once the logo was done, they asked us to write their tagline. So we did write their tagline down here. We rule it, keeping you cool, which I think just pairs up perfectly with the overall look of this logo. And obviously it goes along with the nature of their business. So that was kind of a fun tagline that we wrote. And typically when we write taglines for clients, we do that after the artwork is done, because the aesthetics of the artwork may really drive what that tagline should relate back to. So in this case, obviously keeping you cool relates back to heating and air, and the fact that we have this Johnny Cool character that kind of looks like a cool dude. And the we rule part, it all really kind of makes sense as to why that's the mascot and that's the tagline that goes with it. And then there's some photos from their Facebook page showing how they got this made into a standing sign, and they used that on some parades. And this is a veterans parade that they participated in. And one of the other things too is I just want to share is just kind of show you how the logo actually works in black and white too. So when you look at it by itself, there are a lot of details, and it is has multicolors. So a lot of times clients are very concerned with, well, how will this reproduce in different mediums and how will that function? So you can see here just really how well this artwork actually just converts to a single color. And you can even see how it converts here to black and white. I'm sorry, not black and white, to grayscale. And then this is the guide that we wind up producing with every logo design that we create. And you can see that the guide, shows some basic usage guidelines, identifies the fonts that were used. In this case, the only font that was used was for Johnny and for heating and air, since Cools was hand drawn. And then these are the color breakouts from the palette that was created for this particular logo. And we always include the PMS colors, the RGB colors, and the CMYK colors, so that if the client needs to get this reproduced in different mediums, that they will be able to do that. So that's kind of wrapping up how we got to the finish line for Johnny Cools. Any questions here? How long does something like this take? So Mike, for this particular project, I would say that we we estimate on average about 40 hours of artwork time, or time to create the artwork. So 40 hours would include the research into the strategy, the concepting, the sketching, and the production of final artwork. So every brand that we build, we budget approximately 40 hours for that process to take place. Sometimes they come in a little bit more, sometimes they come in a little bit less, but that's a pretty good benchmark for us. We did have a couple other options that we did present to this client, but we really liked this one best, and the client agreed, and we wound up zeroing in on that. Matt said, when you quote a logo design project or a full visual brand system, is it a case by case, or do you have pre-priced package for your customers? So Matt, we generally have a package that consists of doing the logo and the truck wrap design, and the hours that are budgeted are built into those packages. If somebody wants to proceed and get something like a full-blown brand identity guidebook, then that would be more specifically tailored to their unique needs as far as, well, what elements would we include in that brand guidebook? We've done ones that are more like 20 pages, and then we've done ones that are 60 pages. So Shane said, when you work with the work being trademarked, do you include TM symbol on each item it's on? Business cards, letterhead, vehicles, wraps. Yes. So Shane, absolutely. When we any logo that's finished by us, we automatically add the TM symbol to it. At that point, 99% of our clients are actually getting the logo trademarked and going through that process. But we include the trademark in the artwork, and we do recommend that they use that trademark symbol on every single thing that integrates that logo moving forward. We like to do that. It serves as notice that this is a registered piece of art, or in the process of being a registered piece of art. Also serves notice to people who may, in fact, want to steal the artwork, that's probably not going to be a very good decision for them to do. And it, I think provides a certain amount of protection to the brand. And of course, when you get the logo finalized and trademarked from the patent office, then that's the ultimate level of protection that a client can get from any trademarked brand. So Robert said, out of curiosity, how many individuals work on a given project such as this? So, listen, that's actually a good question. And I think that often it's a few of us. A lot of times Jeff and Jesse's been with us about 5 months now, I think. We'll start the sketch process or start working on different sketches. I'll come in there sometimes with some specific suggestions or some ideas, or I'll start working on some of those sketches on an actual vehicle to make sure that vehicle will perform well and the proportions work for that canvas. And a lot of times too, that's where we see some adjustments that maybe we need to make or consider, like, okay, well, if it's a panel-based logo like this, can I alter the proportions of the mascot in relation to the panel? Can I make the mascot larger and the panel smaller, things like that? But we have 3 or 4 of us that really may touch any given logo project. And I think what's great about that is it really affords us the ability to explore different styles, because between the team, everyone has kind of a little bit of a different flavor sometimes. And it really gives us an opportunity to sort of explore some different creative strategies. And I think also we lean on one another to get to that end result that is often better than if any of us had worked on it individually. So that part I think is really, really cool, because I look at the finished artwork, and a lot of times I look at where we started, and I think when we collaborate as a team, we wind up getting something at the end that is even better. And that's just kind of cool, I think, because we each bring together a unique kind of skill set to collaborate and make these brands really something special. So, when I first started, I did a lot of work by myself, and I think I felt like, this would be something that it was something that I feel like I often didn't get that exposure to collaborate with other designers and to get a better finished product by having that experience available to me. But now that we have everyone on the team here that can help with that, I think that the final artwork is always so much better when we all pitch in and work on it together. Ray said, was this project logo only or vinyl design for fleet? Thank you. Love the work you guys turn out. Ray, this one here was just for the logo design and the tagline design. And that's kind of rare for us. Generally, we are doing the vehicles. I hope we'll get the opportunity to work on the truck wrap design for Johnny Cools later on. But this one, in this particular example, was just for the logo itself. Robert said, also, where do I learn how to make the artwork match up around the vehicle? And I presume when you say make the artwork match up, Robert, you mean like around the corners maybe, or the colors to match up? And for that, I would just say the PMS guides, like when we do a truck wrap file, those guides would include these swatches, and those would be the colors that we would expect our wrap companies that are installing for our clients, or any other wrap company to hit those numbers, and those are the colors that we would expect the artwork to look like. Yeah, so laying out definitely 100%. Just again, the things like the transitions on your curves, on the corners, things like that, are all things that we're going to try to make sure that those things really work out, and that the corners are seamless, things like that. So we definitely are considering those things as we work on different layouts. And I wonder if the one here had the, when we go back to this one, like in particular. So like even this one as an example, this has just got a solid color transition on the rear. So this one is like obviously a much easier wrap design for an installer. But when we do things like that, we're always trying to make sure that the corners and the transition areas, like these transition areas, are going to function well around the corners. So, okay, cool. Well, listen, I think we got this dialed in a lot better today. So I'm pretty happy that this Be Live system that we signed up for seems to be working a lot better. And I will see you guys next month. We'll have a different brand. I think we're going to have something going out probably within the next week or two to pick another 3 or 4 brands that we created, and we'll walk through that process again. So thanks everybody for your time today. Listen, everybody have a safe and happy holiday and a awesome 2021.